Okay, video number 10. So I'm kind of debating on how to go about doing all this here. I know if I was doing my own normal workflow, I would probably start doing some naming and pivots and export this out to work into RealFlight, and you know, I can continue working, you know, back and forth between RealFlight and 3ds Max in Photoshop and all that kind of stuff. But I don't really think that's the best way to go about the tutorial, so I'm just gonna continue modeling parts and so on and so forth, and then we'll map and move into Photoshop and then end up in RealFlight. So this windshield is going to look a little too thin, in my opinion, and also I'd like to make this a separate. I'd like to make a separate little line here, so this looks like a metal rim. So how will I do that? I will probably have to outline this, maybe. Nope, that's not going to work. Well, I tell you what, probably the best and fastest way, and now that I'm looking at this, I'm seeing some mistakes. I'm going to change real quick. Probably should separate the band from... Oh yeah, there's some definite curvature problems here. But I'm going to separate that band from the glass in just a moment. Alright, that's about as much as anybody's going to notice. So there's the band. Just going to go ahead and detach this band, and that ought to work for that. The glass, on the other hand, I am going to take these edges and I will loop this edge around, and it didn't grab it all, so I'm going to grab this side and loop it too. That was by control clicking. Alright, I'm going to go down here to edit edges and go into create shape from selection. As soon as I click that, and I'm going to want to choose linear here. And linear means that it's not going to try to smooth across these verts. It'll end up having the same exact vert count, which is very important for what we're doing. So I want linear. And then I'm just going to try to select that new shape, which is just the edge selection. And then over here in rendering, I'm going to enable this in the viewport, and I can switch to rectangular and just tone down all of this stuff here. Just keep toning it down until it looks about right. That ought to work. Okay. For now, we're going to take that and we're just going to leave it like that. I'm going to move on to this guy here, and I'm going to put a shell modifier on it. No, wait. Let's not do that. Okay. I'm going to grab this edge here and loop it. Nope. And how about I hide unselected for this? I just need to select this whole edge here. Alright, so now I'm going to take that and extrude straight up. Unhide everything. Drag it back firstly, so it's laying fairly close to the windscreen that way. Then I'm going to shrink it inwards like so. And then this vert has made it too far inside, so we're going to move that back out. Let's do it from this angle. Turn the snaps off and see that if that changes it for me at all. Alright, so I'm just going to work on this side then with the move tool. Like so. And probably a good idea to just select these two things here and go around and edit this. Just gonna move this in line this way. Same thing here. And I'm just kind of snapping it to. And matter of fact, I can put on these edges and turn on snaps, and it will snap to an edge for me, like so. Let me turn off faces just to get it to snap to the edge. This is working just fine. It may not look like it, but it is. This is what we're going for. Just going to keep snapping these down to the nearest line. Okay. It looks like I did not get this snapped in. Okay. So now I'm going to turn off the snaps and then make this move along the edge. And I'm trying to get the same height all the way around. This looks a little high. This is definitely a little low. That means I can't have constraints on. Yep, sometimes these processes are just rather long. Okay, I'm going to accept that. I'm going to do a symmetry. We don't need to flip it because I've worked on this side here. And then I'm going to go ahead and right away collapse that. I'm going to go to shell, and I'm going to give myself an outer amount. Looks like 0.05 maybe. There we go. And that's acceptable. I'm going to collapse that and convert this back to poly. I'll loop my selection around here, put this in a separate smoothing group, put this into smoothing group 1, like so. And shift select, and let's get rid of just the ends here. Put these into smoothing group 3. Okay, now we're dealing with some thickness here. Let's unhide all. Let's go back to this object, and let's go ahead and convert this to a poly, and I'm going to go to edge constraints, select both sides here, and bring this up to the top of our bar. We probably need to do some fixing up around this guy. Just need to get these verts outside the window so we don't have any Z fighting. So I'm just gonna move those out like so. And just move this guy back. Move this guy out further. Yep, and I'm gonna have to move this guy a little further out. This one's going to be difficult. Okay. Alright, so let's run a symmetry on that, which means we'll want to flip it 0.01 and collapse. Okay, so now we gave this a little bit of believability, so one of the things we need to do too is to separate these wings into two different pieces. So I'm gonna pick the lower wing first, and I'm gonna detach this. I'm not gonna name it yet. That'll all come after the after you mirror. Just have a symmetry modifier on that. Okay, and we'll detach this. Now we're working with a full amount of parts. The Z fighting is just something that happens at certain levels of zoom that will pretty much just be a problem here in Max. Okay, so I guess one of the last things I'd like to put in this model here would be to just put in a seat cushion right here as a small detail. So I'm just going to inset this a little bit. Matter of fact, here let me first make a copy of that. I think I made a boo-boo. Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that. No, I want to actually just make a poly selection here and detach as a clone. That way we'll keep a piece that's still there. And right, so now we just need to select that object. And one of the things I'm going to do here is to weld in this edge. And I'm just going to shape these down. So take the top three and we'll move them down a certain amount. We'll use the scale tool to move these in. Same thing here. Same thing on these people here. That looks pretty good, but these need to go back out. Okay, and then at the bottom, just bring these in. About like so. There we go. So now I'm going to select those and I'm going to extrude. So I'm going to do an extrusion of, say, about this far. And then I'm going to inset. No, let me do a bevel. And just going to raise it up a little bit and bevel it in a little bit. I'm going to do another bevel. I'm going to bring that back up like so. There we go. Okay, and another bevel. Bring this out like so, full thickness of the seat back. Maybe not so thick, about like right there. That's good. And I'll okay that. Now I'm going to select the control-click edges, and I'm going to get all of these edges involved, and I'll do a chamfer. I'm going to chamfer these maybe 3 times and roll it right back. Okay. Then I'm going to grab these guys here and grow the selection till I'm just around the corner. One more ought to do it. There we go. Put that into smoothing group 1, and then I'm going to put this into smoothing group 2, zoom in even closer, and put this here into smoothing group 3. I'm going to hide everything but this guy, and I'm going to take all these polys at the bottom and I'm going to delete those. They're messing with the smoothing groups and it's highly unnecessary. You go into vertex mode and square all these up. Let's go back and see what that looks like in here. Okay, so now there's a seat in the cockpit, and the windshield has a mounting rim and a liner here on the edge of the glass. And I'm not really too sure that I'm going to go too much further in the modeling as far as the cockpit or anything like that, but we'll render this out and see what that's looking like. Okay, that looks pretty acceptable. I had initially rendered it from the wrong angle. Okay, before I go into any further refinement or anything, I think it's time to get the collision mesh out of the way. And I'm pretty sure we're done with our reference material. I could put these wires in here on the landing gear and all that stuff, but I don't really need the reference for that. So the method you're going to want to use to go about getting rid of your reference material would be to go into your materials first, and in our case we have a multi-sub object. We're going to clear each one individually. That will completely take it out of the project, and then dump one of these empty spheres onto that sphere that used to hold them. And I'm going to get rid of these two planes, and I'll keep this plane as a keep this plane as a something to help me with rendering. So I'll pick a color here, something ugly like that, and then we'll also really grow it quite large and improve the quality of the renders. That way we can pull that out when we want it, but for right now, I'm just hide that selection. Okay, so I do need some further breakdown. I need to concentrate on this Duro gear real quick. So I'm going to hide unselected, and I'm going to grab the polygon tool here and delete this half, and then I'm going to select this half here and make sure that it's exactly half, and I want to detach that, keep that separate, and then on both ends of this piece here I want to cap those, so I'm going to grab the borders and slide down here to, where am I at? Oh, it's up here to cap, so it'll be capped off. Okay, so then I'm going to select just this part here, and what happened? Did I not detach that? I did something wrong here. Okay, I'm back at this stage. Quite sure that I messed a setting here on detach. Yeah, I want to detach this completely. Okay, and grab the border tool. Oops, have to select this object. Use the border tool and cap. Okay, so now I'm going to hide unselected, and just as before, I'm going to grab this border and I'm going to cap it. Then I'm going to hold Control, switch to edges, and deselect. Oops, and deselect these two edges. I want to make a few connections. Let's say 3 connections. And I'm going to go into this view, orthographic. Not really sure what's going on. This feels wrong. I guess it's right. Okay, and I'm going to grab these edges and pull them up. And I'm going to grab just this single edge and I'm going to pull it up. This is going to create a roundness, and once we pivot on this object here, let me just affect the pivot only. I'll turn on snaps to edges and move the pivot. Whoa, let's move the pivot to here. Okay, and then when I turn on the rotate tool, you can see I'm going to be able to align that pivot, and this will end up hinging. So if I bring things back here, you'll see that this is actually intruding to the other piece, but when it moves, it's not going to break away from it. There's not going to be an exposed open end. Okay, so now that we like what we got here, we're going to just use working pivot and mirror copy that across the X. Okay, so we have that split, we have the wing split. We can actually do some refinement here, but I'm going to just start with doing collision mesh. So I'm going to hide unselected and zoom in here. I'm going to go to the left view, orthographic, make sure turn on my grid, and then I'm going to create a cylinder as my collision mesh for the wheel. So, okay, slide this over to the edge, like so. I'm going to turn off the cap segments. I'm going to make them 1 at least, and then I'm going to change my height so that I'm just on the other side here. Now, collision mesh, if you don't already know what it is, a collision mesh is made to for detections of collisions with other objects, and it just makes it simpler for RealFlight to do all the calculations on the model. So I'm going to actually go here and center the pivot to the object, and then I'm going to snap it onto the wheel so it's nice and centered. And I'm going to give this collision mesh a color change. I'm going to add that to the custom colors and give the collision mesh this color. It's easily identified like this. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a selection set. So if I just click right here, I'm going to create a new set. I'm going to call this collision mesh. Okay, and with this collision mesh selected, I'm going to hit plus, and it's going to add that into this list. Once we get quite a few frames going, you'll see that I can use this drop down menu, hit collision mesh, and it'll select everything that's in that selection set. So, and while we're here, I'm just going to go ahead and name this. So it's tilde CS underscore COLL underscore, and this is our left main wheel. So I'm just going to say left wheel actually. Okay, so we'll unhide all this, and right away I'll mirror copy that, and I'll give this one a name of RW up here, and I'm going to open up the ABC box next to it here and hit plus and add that to that selection set. So we got those two going. So now we're gonna we can easily select collision mesh. Oops, what's going on? Did it not? Oh, I had to select it. There we go. So now if I select the collision mesh, I can hide that quite easily. So I'm gonna hide everything here. Now I'm gonna just make a box that goes around this object. Okay, so seems like it has kind of an odd shape. So I'm going to keep it fairly tight to the wheel pant here, and there's no need to get fancy with collision mesh whatsoever. You just need it to so that parts will fall off. I mean, if this collision mesh makes contact with a collisionable surface in RealFlight, then the wheel pant will fall off, which is a good thing. So it just needs to be a very simplified version since it's not visible. So at this point I'll make it alt X so I can see what I'm doing, and I'm going to select these guys here. I'm going to do 2 connections and slide those over, and I'm just going to pinch them out just a little bit like so, and I'll OK that. So now with these new verts in, they're going to hold that edge for me, and I'm just going to move these up into place. Same thing here. squeeze it down a little extra, and then move it down like so. So back to this top view to see if we can do anything about the taper. We can move this in a tad bit more, like so, and taper this back, and move it over a little. Same thing here, put a little taper on it, and it's goodness. Okay, so that will serve for collision mesh there. So we're just going to go ahead and name that now. It's tilde CS underscore COLL underscore. We'll call this left wheel pant. Okay, and we'll alt X that. I'm going to select collision mesh and add that to it. Now I'm going to take this here, use working pivot, and run a mirror copy. Click OK. And up here at the top, we will call this RWP for right wheel pan. And that's going to get added. Okay, so we'll unhide all, and you can see how we're building up our collision mesh. So I'm just going to continue following this process. A lot of times I just like to create a box from one view and just move it and shape it until everything is the way I want it. So and make it completely encompass without going too far. And right away we'll go over and make it a poly. I'm just going to slide that really close to that corner, then just select these, move it over, move this one up, and move it in, move this one back, move this one back so that it can round that acute angle there. Okay, so in this view it's doing its job. So in this view we're going to want to lift it up. Okay, I'm going to hit Alt X to get that to happen for me. Okay, so now, yeah, we need to just lower these down a little bit. Take this guy here, lower it down that way. Okay, I'm going to go from this angle now and lift this up so that this won't break through as I bring it down. Okay, now we're good to bring these up like so. Okay, now I need to make a connection here. Single connection will work for what we're doing. Okay, yeah, let's do it that way. Bring it up like this, and then I'm going to select all these edges and do a connection. Oops, let me connect using the box, and I'll use the slide it right down into place like so. Okay, so now we have it completely surrounded except for we have some extra faces here. So we'll delete these guys here, and I'm just going to go the easy route with selecting this as an entire border capping. Then I'm going to select these two, just these two verts here in the corner, and I'll do a connection and it'll snap that into place. So now we have collision mesh for that. We'll name it tilde CS underscore COLL underscore, and this is the left this is the left gear, so it's LG. Okay, and we'll go over to the hierarchy tab, use working pivot, do a mirror copy, change the name to RG like so, and we're going to select both meshes and add them to the selection set. So when I hit Alt-X on both of those, so they're visible, we'll unhide all. You can see we're building up a quick collision mesh. So now I'm going to actually select the fuselage and the cowl at the same time. Hide unselected. I'm going to move on top. Same thing. Create a quick box. And I'm just going to move this inside a little bit. Okay, and then I'm going to center that up. Alt-X so I can see what I'm doing. Move this guy right down nice and tight. Make an editable poly. Oops. There we go. Move it right tight to the tail. Okay, so to get this to work, I'm going to need a connection at the cowl here. And then I should be able to do a good job with a taper. Like so. And maybe one more connection here just because we have a bit more harsh of an angle change. So now we can go back and squeeze this down. Got it following the contour quite nicely. Okay, so right, so now I'm gonna slide these guys up, and I'll slide this guy up higher, like so. All of these can come down. I'm going to get this one to do another job here by sliding it forward. No, it's not going to do that. It's not going to do that for me. So I'm just going to go ahead and move these down anyways. And the idea is to definitely get this to fit all in the box. So I'm going to do a connection here, and here's where I don't follow a lot of the same rules. I just kind of, put in what I need, and no one's ever going to see it, so I don't care about it being smooth or anything. So tilde CS underscore COLL underscore fuse. Okay, we'll Alt-X that, and we're going to add that to the collision mesh. Okay, so let's unhide all. You can see how this is propagating nicely. Right, so I'm going to be able to do this box once and it'll work everywhere. So I'm going to hide unselected, loft, no, not loft, objects, okay, and I'm going to raise this up to be over the wing, Alt-X, right down to the wing. This wing is such a box that, we really don't even have to do what I'm doing here, but I'm going to anyways, I guess. So I'm going to make a connection, slide this up to the apex of this curve. Really, also, this isn't sticking out too far. Like so. And since we have that there, we can take these guys and narrow them down, and take these guys and narrow them down, maybe move them. Like so. Okay. Alright, so now we're going to name this one. It's going to be tilde CS underscore COLL underscore left main bottom wing LMBW. Okay, so now I'm going to unhide all, hold shift and drag this guy up, and it gives me a chance to name it right away. We're going to call this the left main top wing. Okay, and Alt X just to make sure that we're centered. That looks pretty good. Alright, now I'm going to select both of these guys, use working pivot, and make a copy over here. Then I'm going to take each one individually, and we'll call this. Just get in here and change that to an R, and take off the numbers, change this to an R. Okay, so now I want to select all those pieces, create a collection set, or yeah. Okay, so now we're getting to, yeah, we'll just do it this way, and hide unselected. Okay, I'm going to change it to an editable poly and just slide everything up tight first. Like so. Turning this off, we'll go all the way up, Alt X, all the way up to the very bottom of this, and make that the same thing just by sliding that down. Okay, so number one thing we need to do, oops, is we're going to make a selection, or I'm going to, yeah, make an edge selection. We're going to make a connection that is right on this border. So that's perfect. Okay, that's going to allow me to tilt this guy over and this guy over this way, like so. And now I'm going to take this edge and this edge, which is the edges running down the sides like that, and I'm going to turn on chamfer. I'm going to do a couple chamfers and then roll this way down like so, and then just move these guys into place. It doesn't have to be perfect at all. I'm going to get this guy all the way down here to the corner. Spread these out. So, and then while we're here, we'll select all the polys on this back half, and we'll detach that. And we'll attach this as tilde CS underscore COLL underscore left main elevator LME. And then, oh, right. And I'll name this one tilde CS underscore COLL underscore left main horizontal stabilizer. Okay, we just need to close this in now. So I'm not really sure what's going on. There we go. And I'll cap that. Come over here to this one, border, and I'll cap this one as well. Alright. So I want to select these both and unhide them and add them to the collision mesh selection set. Unhide all, and let's mirror copy. I'm going to change the name here. Okay, and same thing here. Get rid of these numbers. Like so. Select both of those and put them in the selection set. It's a little monotonous, but we're getting there. Okay, so I'll be on this side here now. Okay, I'm going to immediately turn this into an editable poly. And you can see I've created this separately. I'm not going to cut the rudder off from it. I just don't see a need to. Okay, so then I'm going to slide this back. Alright. Then I'll deselect this guy, slide it right over till it's tight. Grab the vertexes on this side, the vertices on that side. There we go. Alt X, let's name that guy ~cs underscore COLL underscore MVS. Okay, and immediately add that. Oops. Add that to the selection set. So back to making the box. I'm going to go ahead and affect the pivot and center it to the object, and then I'll snap it to the middle. Alright, editable poly. And let me just go ahead and grab these two edges here. And I'm going to chamfer that. Pull them down. Okay that. And I'm just going to use these to contour just as before. Okay. And I'm just going to narrow this down and name it. So let's see, it's underscore COLL underscore MMVR. Okay, Alt X and tuck that away with all the rest of them. Let me go ahead and grab this cylinder and call this SW for steering wheel. And then I'm going to quick snap it to the rear wheel. And I'm going to scale downward. We'll get into perspective mode. Zoom in, there we go. Scale that way. Okay. That looks good. So now we can just add that. So now you can see if I click on collision mesh, it's easily selected all at once, and then it's easily hidden. So, alright, I can continue making more collision mesh. Probably don't need to for the guy wires, so I'll just make it for this, and then we'll call that good. I do need one for the steering landing gear too. So going to orthographic here. Make sure. Yeah. So I want left view actually. And I'm just gonna create a box as big as this is, and immediately center its pivot and snap it to this box. Okay. Now, if you remember, this is slanted, so I'm going to immediately go to this view. I'm going to pull this right straight over to the inside edge. I'm going to pull these straight over and up because it doesn't need to be this large. Like so. Yep, and now I'll just move these straight in. Okay, so now I'm going to move these straight back to this guy. And move this one straight back here. Last thing we'll do is make two connections. Get them roughly in place. Like so. So it's not gonna scale correctly for me, so I'm just gonna do them one by one. End up being much faster that way. Okay, tilde cs underscore coll underscore left wing strut. That should work. Okay, alt X that. Mirror that across. Click OK, let's rename this to right. Select them both and add them to the selection set. So now I can actually even with them hidden, I can say yes to this and they'll come back. I don't know that the inner struts will ever be that important, or any of these wires. It's not really that important. I'm pretty sure I have to have a landing gear collision object, so right now I'm at 628 polys for the entire collision mesh. This selection is 332 by itself. That will not do. So I'm going to hide the unselected and left view. Create a box. This may be a little different, but I just needed to do its job here. Lift this up. I'm just clicking connect. and then I'm able to easily, quickly move it. Okay, so it looks like I'm encompassing it from that angle. From this angle, it needs some work. So it needs to be just as large this way. Okay, and take these two guys and move them in. Move these in here. Alright. That ought to work. I think that'll work. So it's going to be to the CS underscore COLL underscore SG for steering gear. Okay. Oops. Unhide all. And there we have a collision mesh. Go into perspective. Okay, so there we have it. Collision mesh is finished. We'll pick up more in the next video.